Hi, everyone. Welcome to an ATG webinar. My name is Kyle Davis, and I'm going to be going over updating your Revit families using the CTC Software Tools. I hope everyone is having a great day so far. And we do have on the webinar channel that you do have a question and answer panel that if you have questions, you can propose them. And then I will save time toward the end, or if it's going over a topic at the time, if I see it, I'll see if I can answer it. And with that, let's get into it. So one of the big things about your Revit content is just needing to get those updated, or you're changing things around. You're going to be updating your preview images, your shared parameters, or you're moving to a new version of the software. And going through your Revit content and making the changes that you need is very time consuming. To do it by a single family can take you 10 minutes, 20 minutes per family, and then you have to then go do that through thousands of content. Well, I'm here to give you the answers to that, is to use the CTC software tools that allow you to make it simple and easy to do. We're going to cover a few of the major tools that can help with this process, and let's get into that. The three major tools that can really help with this procedure is going to be Shared Parameter Manager, Family Processor, and Family Preview Manager. All three of these tools are going to be in the BIM Manager suite. There is one of the free tools, is the Family Preview Manager, which is this one here in the light blue. That is a free tool. So if you were to download the BIM Manager suite now and use it, that tool will keep working for you, whereas the other two are part of the premium package. So if you have a trial license, you can use those for the time period. And then once you get that, then you can, if you want to purchase a license, you can contact your ATG account rep to go over that. With this procedure, there are the three major tools again. The first one I want to do is the Shared Parameter Manager. And this tool, these two tools in conjunction, the Shared Parameter Manager and Family Processor, you can use them in conjunction with one another. That once you go through the Shared Parameter Manager part, then you can move on to Family Processor to do the things to your content. So upgrading your shared parameters, again, can take a long time. And if you do not do it properly, you can mess up your shared parameters. In Revit, modifying the shared parameter files within Revit, it's not really a good way to do it. It's time consuming in there. Once you create a shared parameter, it's stuck. Moving it around, it's very difficult and cumbersome. And then if you have multiple shared parameter files, that's even worse within the Revit, because now you have to get it from one shared parameter file and put it into another. Some clients have developed the workflow of they insert it into a family and then they export it from one family back to the shared parameter or their other shared parameter file. That's just time consuming. That's not going to work. It just takes too much time. And then updating the families to now use that shared parameter also is very time consuming, because you have to go into the families, edit it, and swap it out. So that's where these tools come in. The first one, Shared Parameter Manager. This one lets you simply manage your multiple shared parameter files, combine them, compare what is different between them, see if there's any thing that you need to combine them, or to see if there's any conflicts between them, and if there are any other issues with that. This tool has the ability to filter that out, and then if you need shared parameters from one parameter file to another, you can simply combine those and bring them over from one to the other. And then again, if there's any conflicts between it, you can pick and choose which one you would need to have. And then you can remove parameters if you no longer need it. You can go in there and remove it. This tool also gives you the ability to export shared parameters out of your project or families or both. So if you have a project you get from someone and you need a list of their shared parameter files or shared parameters that they have, you can use this tool to export those shared parameters out to a file. Then you can use the compare feature to compare what it was exported with your shared parameter file so that you can see if they are the same parameter or if they're different parameters and are not needed, or if you want to use yours and modify theirs. So let's see what this looks like in action. So on the CTC Software tab, there is going to be the Shared Parameter Manager. And then you have multiple things within this. So here's the master shared parameter. This is the one that you're going to be doing all the edits to. It says right here, editable. So I'm going to browse out to a shared parameter file, my master one. And then once it pops up in here, I can then look at that shared parameter and file and see what's in there already. And it's a tree view, which is much better than the Revit's dialog, where you don't have this tree view. You have the groups at the top, and you hit that group drop down, and then you have to scan through that entire group. Whereas here you have a tree view. So I hit the little plus sign, and now I can scan through to see all the parameters within that group. And if I select one of these, I can come over here to the modify, and then I could see what type of parameter it is as well. So I could see that this one is a parameter type of angle. It's a discipline of common. So I could see all that in here. And if I wanted to make updates to it, I can. So I can change it to say it's in a different group, or I can change it as a different discipline and type. Now, in doing the changing of the discipline and the type, if I do change it, it is going to give me a message that the GUID is changing. So that will affect the parameter, because again, it's going off of the parameter GUID, not necessarily just the name. So within that shared parameter file, that will be modified. So then that would be in the conjunction when we get into family processor, what you can use there. Now, the other portion is that if you have multiple shared parameters, you come over here to the source side and you pick another shared parameter file. So this could be one that you have been sent from a client, or this could be like over the years you had multiple shared parameter files and you're just trying to combine them all into one. I can do that by finding that shared parameter file, and then I can merge these together with what I want. And I get to pick and choose what I want to do with it. So on this side, I can hit the expand side and kind of scan through here and see what I want. But there's also the filter option up here at the top that I can say, okay, I want to see all the unique parameters. So when I pick unique, then over here on this side and on this side, you're going to see that it highlights in color all of the parameters that are unique between the two shared parameter files. Everything that is currently as in the white here, so this one and this one, these are the exact same shared parameter. So at one point, I grabbed the shared parameter, I pulled it over, and I'm using it, but I left it in my old one, so it's there. Then if I want to take a parameter that is not in my shared parameter file, so I have a door rating here, and let's say I want to take that over here into my rooms group. So I simply select it, and I drag it over to that group and then let go. Now, it did bring it over, but it did expand it here. So if I scroll down, there is now that door rating. And notice over here too, that now this is no longer green, is because as soon as I pull that over, it's now both of them are the same. So I don't, it's gonna unhighlight that. So this is a nice, clean, easy way to kind of compare that. Then if I need to, there is also the conflicts, which is the biggest one here that I like to note, is that here the show only. Checking that is going to hide all the other parameters, and then it's only going to show you the ones that there's a conflict with. And if you look at the name here, appear in schedule. However, if you hover over it, it's going to tell you that the parameter name is the same. However, the GUID is different. So that means they are technically, in consideration of Revit, they are two different parameters. They are not the same. Again, they are named the same, but they are not the same parameter. Again, Revit goes off of the GUID, not the name. So this is where I can then decide saying, well, I'm going to use mine because it's already in the master. I'm going to ignore the conflict one over here. Also the duplicates, this is again where I was showing that these are the same. So these are all the yellow, the orange here and yellow and orange here. They are the same. So I don't need to worry about those. So this is the comparing between the two, and you're going to grabbing these over. But not only do you have it where you can merge these over if you need to, because you just need to add additional parameters, you do have the fully functionality of adding additional parameters. The nice thing with this add is that you can add as many of in here as in one step, instead of in Revit when you have to say new, type it all in, hit OK, then say new again, type it all in and hit OK. Well, here I could just simply do it as many times as I want. So all of these at the same time will be the same type of parameter, the same everything. They're not going to be, I don't have to click that add and then keep putting in all this information again, changing the group, changing all that. I simply just come in there and type that all out. So it makes it super easy to be able to change these and add as many as I want at one go. Now, I also mentioned that you can export the shared parameters. So up here at the very top, you have the ability to export, and you could say that it goes from the project, to families, but you could also export to a spreadsheet. So if I just wanted to take those and export them out, I could do that. Now this, when you do the export from project or project and families, it goes off of based on the active project that you have in the background. Now, if you have a family open in the background, this will just say family. So let me do that here. And here I go to save it. So because I made those changes, do I want to save it? Yes or no? So I wanted to just go into a family here to kind of show you what it would look like when you go in through a family environment. So up here, it just simply says export share parameters. There's no drop down. It just simply wants to export because it's coming from just that single family. So if you had a family that has all your share parameters in it, you could export from that single family or from a project, just depending on which one you have open at the time. Now, on that save, I did want to mention that inside the options of Shared Parameter Manager, there is this setting here that says Backup Master Shared Parameter File before overwriting, and then you have a number here. And what that will do is it will, if you hit save, the previous one becomes a backup of that file. And it's going to act very similar to Revit, that it'll put the 0, 1 behind it, so that if you did make a mistake, you can restore that shared parameter file before going on. You just simply, it's just a text file, you can rename it back to not being the 0, 1 or anything like that. So that is the Shared Parameter Manager tool. Again, it's a very powerful tool to be able to go through and make those updates to your families so that you can, modify the shared parameter file to then get ready to push the parameters to your family. Oh, I apologize here. My next slide is missing for Family Processor. So I'm just going to go over what Family Processor is here. So Family Processor is probably one of the most powerful tools within the BIM Manager Suite package. It has a lot of functionality with it. Oh, here's one of the keys to this tool is that you have to run it while being in a family. So let me go back to the family here and go over Family Processor. With Family Processor, there's a lot of things you can do in here, but with this particular topic, updating your families, this is the biggest tool. So the first tab, Family Level Processing, you have some basic stuff to do to the front end of the families. So work planes, always vertical, shared, those are all sitting here that you can change them. You can set the Omni class, you can change the work planes, you can change the category. Caution, don't do it if you don't need to change the category, because this will affect your object styles and all that. It is an option. We had the CTC had that request from a lot of clients to be able to go through and say, hey, change all my generic model families to something else, specialty equipment. So that's why that's there. One of the other big ones is when opening the family files, turn on auditing. This is recommended to, every now and then, just go through and audit your families. That's a fast way to do it right there. Then you have the other things in here of lookup tables where you can delete lookup tables or import lookup tables, so that if you have mechanical equipment or other things that need the lookup tables, you have the ability to update those and all that. Change materials, same thing here, that you can delete materials that are already in your families or add additional materials or change a material from one name to another, and then change the RGB value and the transparency. Currently, there is not a feature to update the appearance of a material. Autodesk needs to be able to add that in the Revit API to make it accessible. So currently, that is not a feature at this time. And the next big one is the Change Parameter tab, which allows you to do the parameter portion of it. So you went through and you edited your shared parameter file, you combined what you needed. Now you need to update your families with those shared parameters. That's this tab. So there's multiple sub-tabs underneath it. So first thing is you pick your shared parameter file. So you browse to that master. And then if you do browse, sometimes you can hit reload and this will refresh, but that's for the other tabs. So the first tab, delete, is where you just simply pick the parameters that you want to get rid of. We're no longer using this parameter, get rid of it. Add shared parameter allows you to pick a shared parameter file, or pick a parameter, and I want to add this parameter to all my families. So I pick it. And then down here at the bottom, I get to choose, is it an instant? Is it a type? What parameter value formula, and what group is it going to be under? Now, if you put a value or a formula in here, that it'll apply that formula or value to that parameter for all types. So as it states here, this value will be for every single type. Now, this is a brand new parameter, so if it doesn't exist already, it will be added. If it is already there, if it sees that it's already there, it's gonna, if it tries to add it, it's gonna say that it can't because it's already there. So, and then add family parameter is for just updating, creating a family or a parameter that's a family parameter. So this will not appear in a schedule and cannot be tagged, but at least it's a parameter that you, if you need it there. And then replace with shared parameter. This is where you can pick a parameter and tell it to be a different parameter. So for example, in this particular family I have open, I want to change the height to be from my shared parameter. So I added the height down here, and then I select the height that I want it to be that's in my shared parameter file. So I can come in here and pick a height parameter or a different parameter. I just get to pick that. So now there is the option down at the bottom of automatically replace all parameters found in the family with matching name and type in the shared parameter file. This is a very great option if you're changing your shared parameter file, you know, from one shared parameter file to another shared parameter file, or if you have the same name but it's a different parameter because of the GUID. If you check this option, the tool will automatically run through and find all the parameters that match the name and type and already swap it over so that you don't have to manually come through and select all those types to replace it with. It'll just start doing it for you. And then parameters to change is where you can select a parameter that you want to see, and then go through and say, you know, find this parameter in all my families and then change its values to this. So regardless if it's a shared parameter or a family parameter, just run through, take the parameter and do something with it, such as change its value to something else. I've used this in the past when working with content that a package that has a version number on it, and I say run through and put in a new version number for it. So it can save me hours of time going through every single family, putting in a new value number. I simply tell the tool to do it for me. Now, once you have your settings set here, the next two tabs tell it how to go about it. So the next one is processing order. This one allows you to pick the order that you want the tool to run through to make the changes to them. This can be important on the order depending on what you're trying to do. One order might need to be done before another. So for example, if I am adding a family parameter, and I come in here and I say, add a family parameter. And in the formula, I say reference this other parameter. And that other parameter is a shared parameter that I'm adding. So I have a family parameter that references a shared parameter. So if I need to do that, I need to put the add family parameter first, or they add the share parameter first. Sorry, I meant to be the backwards there. So I need to have the parameter that I'm referencing added first before the parameter that's added that references it. Because otherwise the tool is going to try to add the parameter, give it a value, and if that parameter doesn't exist, it's going to give an error that it couldn't find it and the formula won't work because the parameter is not there. So it's going to error out. So you'll just need to make sure that your order is appropriate to say, add the parameter that I'm referencing first, and then add the parameter that has the formula second, so that they don't get that error. Then the Select Families and Begin tab allows you to browse to a folder So I hit the browse button, I browse to my folder, then I come through and I select all the families that I need to process and then say add selected to the bottom. And then I get to choose what do I want to do with it. So for example, here is a resave even if no changes needed, useful for upgrading families. And then here, save to an alternate parent folder. So I'm taking the families from one folder and I'm moving them to a completely different folder so I can keep the other ones available so that I'm not, messing up these. I highly recommend this if you're going through and just testing what you're doing. Then I would recommend to save it to another location to keep the families available, and then if something happens, you have your families still there. There is the option of preview only, where it does say it doesn't save the families, but it tests them so that if you have any issues with your settings, it'll actually pop back and tell you what those issues were. For example, of couldn't add the parameter because it already exists or the formula is messed up, it'll tell you that. However, the preview doesn't necessarily going to give you everything, because even if you had it save, you can then open it and view it, and actually take a look at it. So this is where I like that save to alternate parent folder so that it saves the family out and then you can open it and verify that everything was done correctly. Then there's also the options in here of create new shared parameter files from all unique shared parameters found in the family. So this could be another option where, like just in Shared Parameter Manager, you have this option here to say, run through all these families and then spit out a shared parameter file for me. Then I'll use Shared Parameter Manager to compare the differences between those two files. And then if I find any conflicts or issues with that, then you can modify your shared parameter file, then come back and use Family Processor to then complete the task of going through, fixing them, swapping out parameters, and so on. Once you have all your settings, you simply then say begin processing, and then the settings will actually go through and start doing all that. One question I saw on the when I say unique parameters, so this option here says all the unique parameters. This means that if the same shared parameter is used in multiple families, it'll get only exported once. So if you have a parameter called ATG height, and that ATG height is in multiple parameter or families, it's just going to export it once. Because it's unique, it's not going to export it twice. Now, if there is a ATG height parameter in one family and an ATG height parameter in another family, but they are two different GUIDs, then that parameter will get exported. You may even get a conflict. You'll get a conflict then at that point, because now there's two parameters that are different GUIDs. So it'll say they're unique. So I hope that answered the question of unique, is that it has to be the same parameter. If it is the same parameter, it's only exported once, not twice per family. It's not exported per family. The follow-up of that is it also does not export. I believe that is correct. If it's a different type, same name, it may not export. I would have to test that myself to confirm that one. Okay, so that is the family processor. Again, a very powerful tool to go through and update all your families with the parameters and so on. But again, you got to be careful with it, because again, if you don't pick your settings correctly, that can mess up your family. So that's why I recommend always to do a save as to another parent folder so that it will do that. And then the last tool I wanted to kind of discuss here on this particular topic, updating the family, is one of the newer tools in the suites. It's been out for a while now, but it's one of the fairly newer tools, is Family Preview Manager. This tool is designed to help go through your content and, excuse me, go through your content and update the preview image. The nice thing about it is you have the ability to specify what you want to do with certain categories. So not only will it run through your families and generate the preview images for it, but it will also say for certain types of categories, I want you to do this particular thing, whereas on these type of categories, I want you to do a different preview. So you have that ability in this tool with the options to specify templates that are applied to certain categories. Otherwise, if you don't apply a template to a category, then it just simply takes the default appearance settings that are set on the top of it. So let's see what this looks like. So if I go into the Family Preview Manager, we got the dialog here where you can now select a file or a folder. So if I come through here and I want to select a particular folder, just pick whatever folder I want, and then it shows me a list of all the families in that folder. Then up here on the top, I go into Options, and now I get to choose what do I want to do. So here, remember Windows position, and then also clean up backup files. And then you get the generate the preview name. So here it says CTC preview. So it's going to add a preview image or a thumbnail is going to come from this view. So it's going to create that view. It's going to modify it, save all the settings for that view inside the family so that that family has that image or that view in there. Then you get all these visibility settings where you can come in here of saying set as active view, enable preview visible, smooth edges with anti-aliasing, show dimensions, show reference planes, show reference lines, and so on. So depending on the category, for example, detail items, one of the biggest issues I hated with those is the preview image would show me all the reference planes. Well, here I can simply make sure I turn those off by unchecking this. It runs through all my detail items, turns off the reference planes, creates that view. So now I don't have a detail item that is really tiny because of the reference planes are turned on. Then you have the Appearance Settings tab, which here at the very top you have the default appearance where you can say, I want to grab this as the default preview angle, the display style, wireframe, hidden line, realistic, shaded, consistent with color, those choices, and then the detail level. That would be the default appearance. Then if you wanted to change it by the appearance of a category, you can then create a template where I give it a name and then I give it the angle, the direction, the style, the detail level. Then I pick my template, pick a category, and then I pick the arrow to then move that over. So here, if I hit the expand on this one, I see a list of the categories that I've already applied to that particular template. And then I have this template down here that applies to these. So I wanted the tool to run through in all the casework, all the furniture to be applied to this view, this direction, whereas all the doors and windows is just a front view with consistent color and fine level of detail. So I applied that to a particular template. And then you can save these settings in a location. If you want all the users to have it, you can save that out and then load it onto the other computers so that they have the same settings on multiple computers. Then you have the options. Once you set your sets in here, then you have the override the family, or again, save family to a new location. So it's your choice if you want to just replace what's already there or have it run through and save them somewhere else. So as a test, again, I always recommend to save it somewhere else and not have it override it, just for testing purposes. Once you do that, then you simply say process, and then it will run through and make those changes to your families. So it makes it so much easier than instead of having to manually go through and update all those preview images. That takes a ton of time to make sure you go through and set all those settings of turning off reference planes and so on. Now, the only thing with this that I do still want to call out is, yes, it's going to update the thumbnail for items. However, there is still sometimes some issues within Revit in general. For example, casework. Casework has been one of the issues is that the preview images are sometimes backwards on casework. So if I come in and I bring in a casework element, that thumbnail actually might be backwards. That cannot get fixed by the preview image within the thing. That will get when you go to load the family in, that'll get fixed there, but it won't fix it within the type selector because that's an issue within Revit itself. Okay, so we got some questions coming in here about if you run this on a detail item and do not show the dimension reference planes, then you cannot get those to show up in the family again unless you run the app again through the same families. I believe that would be the case, that if you did have it turn those off and then you want it back on, you would have to run through it again on those families with turning them back on to get the thumbnail to now show that. Another question is, why is the preview tool different than that Hive does when creating thumb previews? Hive has the family preview manager kind of built into it now. However, the Hive is not saving the view within the family. It is just simply creating an image and then displaying that image within Hive when you search it. It's not actually saving it to the family. So that's where it is actually a little different. Also, when we've seen families are upgraded using batch upgrade, the preview does not stay when upgraded families. Depends on when you say you're batch upgrading, if you're using one of the CTC tools or if you're using something else. Depends on if it's going to modify that preview image to be something else. But if you use one of the tools, it should let you go in there and make sure that you select keep. Which kind of leads me into the bonus topic here. Also wanted to mention another thing, since we're talking about updating your families, bonus topic of just simply upgrading. There are two things with this one. Family processor, which I mentioned, is that you can go in there and select that option of resave even if no changes needed. You can select that and then have it run through your families and upgrade them to the version you choose. So this one would be once the 2022 release comes out and then CTC releases their version as well, you can then upgrade your content to the next version. Then there's the other tool in the BIM batch suite, Project and Family Upgrader, which allows you to grab your families that you want and upgrade them. It does allow you to pick projects as well and upgrade those from one version to another. Then there's the option of copy to a new location, which again, I always recommend for testing purposes to see if it works what you expected, and then run through and do it live if you do choose to upgrade it in current place. Now, one of the questions on that upgrading about the preview image, it was asked the CTC upgrading, and you've seen it remove the preview image. I would say if that is the case, please email support@atgusa.com to have a support case created. We can review that, and then if it needs to be sent over to CTC as a bug report, we can do that as well. So that is what I wanted to cover over here of updating your families. Let's kind of finish up here with the questions. If you have any questions, please put them in the question panel and we'll go over them now. One question I see is going over the Load Shared Parameters tab. Thank you for that one. In the Shared Parameter Manager, one of the other tabs is the Load Shared Parameters. And what this one does is it gives you the ability to pick your master parameter file, select some parameters from it, and then when you do that, let me stretch this over here. I already had this saved here from a previous session, but what you do is you create these selection sets and then you add those selections from your parameters over here. Then you select those parameters and then you say, okay, I want it to go into this group. I want it to go into identity data. I want it to go into electrical loads. I want it to go into something. Then you pick what category you want it to apply to. So in this case, I added this to equipment and electrical fixtures, and I made it as an instant. Then when I click load parameters, it's going to take all those parameters that I've specified here, and it's going to load them into the project or family that I have open, and it'll create those in there so that they're available. Now, since in this case, I'm in a project when I load shared parameters, it's going to load it into the project parameter. So in the manage tab, project parameters, it'll be sitting there and it'll be available as soon as you load any electrical equipment or fixture for that category. And the thing about this is that when you do these selection sets, it does save a file next to the shared parameter that the next time you pick it, it'll automatically have the same selection sets here so that you can do this procedure to another project or another family if you do choose. One other question I see here is why would you do the family processor versus parameter jammer? Good, very good question there. And I will say the answer is kind of a two-part. I would use both. It just depends on the situation. If I am trying to update the family itself and save it, that's going to be family processor. That is the key. Family processor will update as many parameters as you want within as many families as you want and save them. Parameter jammer is per project. This parameter is missing from these particular types of families. Run through, add the parameter to the family. It will do it, but it only does it within the project where it adds it, but it doesn't save the family out to your folders. So if you want to have those families have the parameters permanently so that you can load it into other projects, you'll have to save it out when you use Parameter Jammer. So, because Parameter Jammer was meant to be kind of a one-off that I downloaded a family from a manufacturer and I push it into a project, but it's not scheduling appropriately. So I push the parameter into it, and that's it. I may not use that family again. So that's the Parameter Jammer was kind of intended. Whereas Family Processor is meant to be, yep, go through all these families, swap out the shared parameter, save it, and I'm good. Follow up on that one was Parameter Jammer cannot add a parameter to a family. The answer to that question is yes, it does. However, it does not save it. It only adds it to the family, loads it back into the project, and then if you want it, you save it out. So it's a two-parter there, not just saving it. So. And then one portion, is there a tool that helps reassign line types, styles within a family? The answer to that question is currently no. There is the type swapper, the tool that helps you within a project. You can do it sort of within a family, but it's a single family at a time. That's in the BIM Manager Suite, the type swapper, but currently running through and changing line types, styles within a family. There's not a tool for that. I know we've sent that feature request to CTC for Family Processor at least, but nothing as of yet. And a follow-up on the shared parameter manager, when you load the parameters in to a project, it loads them as project parameters. The answer to that question is no, it loads them as shared project parameters instead of just project parameters. They will actually be shared project parameters. So that's the thing that's always confusing within Revit. There's project parameters and then there's shared project parameters. But yes, it loads them in as that. Oh, Parameter Jammer is adding the families. No, it adds them as shared because they're coming from your shared parameter file. It does not add them as project parameters. It adds it to the family as a shared parameter and then pushes it back into the project to now that parameter will be inside the family. But again, it doesn't save the family out to a project or out of the project. There's another one about the family processor, change a material to another material from another family. You can have it create a parameter or add a material into a family from another family, but the appearance may not come over because of just the limitations of the API. So Autodesk hasn't really added that over. So it's not going to do a transfer project standards from one family to another to bring over that material. So kind of the answer to the question is no. Family processor can't change a material to match another one. It can add it, but it will just be the RGB value. The appearance may not come across just because of that limitation of the API. All right, are there any more questions on this process of updating your families? All right, sounds good. So I'm not seeing any come through here. So I hope everyone has a great rest of your day and thank you for joining.